Hey, house kids, Eric here. Today is Saturday, June 27th. This is the last weekend of June. We got July kicking in next week, and I'm excited because next weekend we get to celebrate Independence Day, July 4th. I'm looking forward to that. Let's get into the lesson. We left off with Jacob. Remember, he took off from his brother Esau after he cheated him out of his blessing. And he ended up living with Laban for like 14 years working for him. Laban tricked him into marrying 2 wives, even though Jacob only wanted to marry 1 wife. And he had lots of kids during this time. So, during this 14 years, especially during the last part, Jacob acquired lots of wealth through livestock and other things. And the way he did that is he made agreements with Laban like, hey, how about I take all of the unwanted baby sheep that you don't want, like the spotted ones or the striped ones? And Laban agreed to that. Well, Jacob was smart, and God was blessing him, and Jacob knew so much about raising sheep and animals that he knew how to breed them together so that he would get a large amount of the babies. So he ended up acquiring this huge livestock of sheep and animals, and Laban started getting frustrated about it, even though they agreed fairly. And so Laban was mad, and he was getting more and more frustrated throughout time. It didn't help that Laban's sons also complained about Jacob, saying, Jacob is just taking all of our stuff. So God ends up appearing to Jacob and telling Jacob, hey, I need you to take all of your belongings, your family, everything, and I need you to leave here and go back home where you're from. And so Jacob goes to this field, and he brings his whole family with him and everyone that's with him and says, hey, God told me we need to go back to where I'm from, so we need to leave now. So he gathered all of their sheep and everything, all their belongings, and they took off into the sunset. And so as they headed, Laban ended up eventually finding out, and he was mad. He was not happy at all. He didn't want him taken off with everything, so he comes chasing after him. And so you got Laban chasing after him, and he's headed back home where in his mind he's worried because the last time he left home, you remember Esau wanted to kill him. So he felt like he was in between a rock and a hard place. Now, that's a saying, if you hear, that means when you hear someone say, oh, I'm in between a rock and a hard place, it just means that you're in a situation where whichever choice you make, it's going to be difficult. And that's what he felt like. He's like, I can't go back. God wants me to go home, and Laban's chasing me, but when I get home, is Esau going to kill me? So as he's heading home, as he starts getting closer, he gets fearful about Esau, and he sends some of his messengers out ahead and says, go check on Esau, let him know that I'm coming. And the messengers come back and tell him, Esau is on his way here now, and he has 400 men with him. Jacob gets fearful, very fearful, and so he's scared. So he starts coming up with all these plans that he's going to do to try and help himself. Like he's going to, hey, let's split up into different groups, and I'll send some groups ahead, and that way if he attacks us, some of the other groups have time to get out of here. And he starts having some of the groups bring gifts to Esau, saying, hey, here's a gift. I humble myself before you. Please don't kill me. That kind of stuff. But the thing about this is that this is so Jacob. His whole life, he's not trusting God. God promised him that he was going to be fine, that he was going to have numerous children, and he was going to end up starting this nation, and also through his family line was eventually going to be someone that blessed the entire world, which we know as Jesus Christ. So if he trusted in God's promise, he shouldn't be scared of Esau. If Esau were to kill him and all of his family, then the promise wouldn't happen. And we know that God's promises always happen. However, Jacob has a hard time trusting in God. So he does all these things as he's getting closer to Esau. And on the last day, he has his family, his immediate family and his group, go across this stream, gets them set up, and he stays back on the other side of the stream. And that night, a mysterious man appears. And Jacob and this mysterious man begin to wrestle. And they're just wrestling back and forth. And they wrestle all night long. So they're just wrestling, and this mysterious man, we kind of find out, is God later on, appearing as a man to wrestle Jacob. And so as Jacob's wrestling with the mysterious man says, hey, it's going to be like morning soon. The sun's going to come up. You need to let me go. And Jacob would not let him go. He's like, I'm not going to let you go. And the mysterious man touches Jacob's hip. Boom, pop. And his hip just gets injured, just pops right out. But Jacob still would not let him go. He's like, I'm not letting you go until you bless me. And the mysterious man says, what is your name? He says, my name's Jacob. And he says, you know what? From now on, your name will no longer be Jacob. You will now be known as Israel, because you have wrestled with men and you have won. And he blesses Jacob. And then as morning comes, Jacob moves forward with his family, and they see Esau in the distance, and Jacob runs up to Esau. He bows down 7 times, very humble, 7 times before Esau, and says, like, Master, please forgive me. Please welcome me into your arms. And Esau runs up to him and gives him the biggest hug ever. Esau's so happy to see his brother Jacob. You see, this whole time, God was working on Esau's heart. 14 years had passed, and God was working on Esau. And so him and Jacob, it's like a big reuniting great thing. And then Esau ends up going home, and Jacob and his whole family and all of his wealth, they end up finding a place not too far away, and that's where they get established, and that's where they end up building the nation of Israel. But see, in this story, Jacob never trusted God. He was never trusting God, right? And that picture of him wrestling that man was just showing how much he wrestles with God his whole life. And he's got that hip injury. He ends up having that the whole rest of his life. He has this hip injury. I bet he kind of had a weird walk, if you could imagine, with a hip injury. But that is a reminder to Jacob that things would be a lot better if he didn't fight God on them. But Jacob had a hard time trusting in God, and we can do that too. Sometimes we can have a hard time trusting in God. And that's the message throughout all of this when we learn and read through Jacob's life. It's just a message on we should trust God, right? Sometimes doing the right thing is the harder thing in life. Sometimes it seems much easier to cheat or lie or steal to try and get our way instead of just trusting that God's going to make it okay in the end. Doing the right thing is usually the more difficult thing. But if we remember and we keep in our minds and in our hearts all the time that truth that God sent Jesus Christ for us so that we can spend eternity with God in heaven, then it should make it that much easier for us to do the right thing in life. Because I'll tell you right now, even as an adult, it's still difficult. It's still sometimes doing the right thing is the hard thing for me. And that's what it is living in this world of sin. But this is a great story about trust, and that we can always trust in God, even when we can't trust other people. All right? Good story with Jacob. I like it. I have the printouts down below. Remember, we're going to have these also for you if you come to church tomorrow on Sunday. We have this coloring page. Look at that. The big wrestle. It's on. Ding, ding, ding. It says here, God changed Jacob's name to Israel, the name of God's covenant people. So that's a cool coloring page. And then this week's activity sheet is called What's in a Name? And they have here the name Jacob and the name Israel. And it says that use the letters in Jacob and Israel, there's a lot of letters you can choose from, to form as many new words as you can. So you can mix them up, right? You can put lab, right? Or Eric, I have a simple name, so luckily mine fits in here as well. So that's fun. You can do that little activity sheet. Robin has another cool craft for you. I love the craft this week that she made. She's so creative. And the link to her video on how to do this craft, how to make it, is going to be in the description down below along with everything else. You got this right here. It says Jacob. See, there he is. It looks like he's giving a big thumbs up. Hey. And you flip this up. Watch this. Boom! Jacob to Israel. Isn't that cool? I like that craft. Robin, you killed it. You did great. Israel, Jacob. So that is going to be for you to create. The two things that you'll need to print out are these, and they'll be down below in the Dropbox as well. And again, her video will explain how to do that. So that's this week. It's Jacob being renamed to Israel. Next week, I believe we get into Joseph, which is kind of cool. So I hope you guys are doing well. I hope I get to see you tomorrow. If not, I will see you next week here on the lesson video. You guys take it easy. Bye.